We've seen the lies, we know the plan. We're not going to sit or stand. Alien. Today, we're going to talk about faking an alien invasion. And we're going to talk about faking an alien invasion because it's an actual plan on the table that's been around from at least the 60s or 70s, early 70s. And I put out a video in 2011, so that's about 9 years ago, about how they could fake, the cabal, the military, how they could fake an alien invasion, an evil alien invasion.
This is advanced technology being used to influence and condition the public. The public cannot accept the fact that their leaders and their nations have advanced technology in their hand. So these people also have advanced ships, modified ships from the World War II era, back-engineered ships that they've shot down, and they've taken as much of the technology as they could, and they back-engineered as much as they could.
Because that was one of the cards, the last card that Carol Rosin pointed out from her discussion with Dr. Werner von Braun.
Good morning. My name is Carol Rosin. In 1974, after being a sixth grade school teacher, I was introduced to the late Dr. Werner von Braun, in the U.S., the father of rocketry. In my first meeting with him, during that first 3.5 hours, he said to me, "Carol, you will stop the weaponization of space."
If nobody knows who Dr. von Braun is, he's one of the German scientists that was brought over after the World War II.
As the war escalated, Werner von Braun's involvement with the Nazis deepened. His infamous V-2 rocket was now ready for production at a secret underground factory in central Germany named Mittelwerk.
The American army, because we wanted to ultimately wind up in America, given this choice.
Werner von Braun was aware that his V-2 technology made him a prized pig in the world of warfare. As Allied troops approached, he carefully orchestrated his surrender to the Americans.
And he developed the Saturn rockets. Without the Saturn rockets, they would not be able to conceive the Apollo missions.
Dr. Werner von Braun. A voyage around the moon must be made in 2 phases. A rocket ship taking off from the Earth's surface will use almost all the fuel it can carry just to attain a speed great enough to balance the pull of gravity. Unpowered, it will then keep circling the Earth in an orbit outside of the atmosphere.
The Saturn rockets provided the necessary lift to launch the Apollo 11 program. Now, he's a very smart guy. He's a German scientist. He's one of those paperclip operations people. But what he said to Rosin was that the powers that be, the people in charge, the cabal, had a plan of 5 cards. And they would use these 5 cards, these 5 threats, as a way, as a kind of a vehicle to take military action, to take political action, to change policy, to scare the public. So one of the cards was the Russian card. They would create a Russian threat, and that's pretty evident, historically speaking. So, you know, von Braun was around in the late 50s, 60s, and part of the 70s. Russian attack. The Russians were the evil threat. They were one of the cards. Rogue nations, another one of the cards. We've seen that before. Terrorism, that was a card that was laid out by von Braun in 1974.
And we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system. The first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
Now, terrorism didn't really start to really take root until there was some of it going on in the 80s, but then you had the late 90s into the 2001.
I met the late Dr. Werner von Braun in early '74. At that time, von Braun was dying of cancer, but he assured me that he would live a few more years in order to tell me about the game that was being played, that game being the effort to weaponize space.
So there's a plan on a table, 1974, that was told to Rosen. That plan wasn't created in 1974. He told her because he was dying. Werner von Braun was dying of cancer. So basically, he had nothing left to lose. He's on his deathbed. And so he tells somebody. And Carol Rosen went public. She has videos. She went public and made very explicit statements, even going to the point of telling people word for word what he had told her, what von Braun had told her. So that was the third card, terrorism. Well, we've gone through the terrorism threat. The second card, so I'm moving up. The last card is number one. Number two was the asteroid threat. So he said there's going to be a situation where asteroids are threatening human existence.
That was only about 50 yards across. So how big is this one we're talking about right now? Well, is it this big? No. That's about the size of the one that blew up over Russia back in February that everyone got excited about and afraid of. So is it this big? No. This is about the size of a football field. This is the size of the one that flew past the Earth with no impact the same day. No, this asteroid we're talking about right now, Jake, is much more like this. Absolutely massive, traveling some 24,000 miles an hour. Yeah, if it hit the Earth, it would cause a massive trouble. By the way, I think that's...
And this, of course, comes just as last night here we told you about the asteroid barreling toward Earth. That was something completely different, not to be confused with this meteor. Today, the asteroid was in fact streaming toward Earth, and as predicted, it missed us this afternoon by about 17,000 miles, but that was still pretty close. And so tonight, we wanted to bring in Amy Meinzer, an astrophysicist. She joins us from the Jet Propulsion Laboratory there in California. Amy, thanks for being here. And when we saw those images out of Russia today, we all wondered, could this happen here?
It's possible that such an event could happen again. This was actually the largest fireball that we've seen in a long time, since about 1908.
And that asteroids they're near collision objects in space that they're going to hit, and they could devastate our technology systems. They could wipe out millions of people. Because remember what wiped out the dinosaurs 65 million years ago. Hint, asteroids. So asteroid is the second card. And in recent years, there's this increasing attention to asteroids. There's a near collision. The asteroid is coming very close to Earth. Asteroids are very dangerous. They could wipe us out. There's all of these articles, and they're increasing. Whereas before, they didn't have this media attention. Whereas before, asteroids have always been around. Asteroids are always passing by our planet. That hasn't changed for millions of years, even 65 million years. Asteroids have been around for millions of years. Why all of a sudden they would take prominence? Why all of a sudden did they become a threat? Because it's just like the climate change and extreme weather. Well, weather has been around since the beginning of the formation of the planet. There's been weather. And there's been storms. In ancient scriptures, there's been floods and earthquakes. There's been storms, sandstorms, heat waves, right? There's been ice ages. Weather has been around for millions, hundreds of millions of years. But all of a sudden, extreme weather is a threat, because it's not called global cooling or global warming. Those terms didn't work. They didn't take root. So they call it climate change. When it's hot or cold, whatever it is, the wind, it's wet, it's dry, it's climate change. It's caused by humans, and it's a threat. It's a huge threat. There's teenagers, high school students now, they're campaigning that they have a panic. They're afraid that the world will end if we don't do something about climate change.
People are suffering. People are dying. Entire ecosystems are collapsing. We are in the beginning of a mass extinction, and all you can talk about is money and fairy tales of eternal economic growth. How dare you!
But climate has been around for hundreds and hundreds of millions of years. If there are any students listening, climate has been around for hundreds of millions of years, as has weather, as has extreme weather. Now, why is the weather a little more extreme? Well, media hype is part of it, but the other part is weather weapons. There are weather weapons in space, which connects us to the asteroid threat. Because if there is an asteroid threat, we need more satellites to detect asteroids. And we need satellites capable of maybe shooting down an asteroid. So now we have a budget. We have societal support. We have people supporting the launch of more satellites. But we don't know what's on these satellites. We don't know if these satellites are more weather weapons. Because the more satellites they launch, if at every 10 satellites they launch, one of them is a weather weapon, and each time they launch 10, a better weapon is launched, and you have weather modification satellites, and you have climate weapons, right? More in space, and then there are more extreme weather. There are earthquakes, there are storms and hurricanes and heat waves and polar storms and climate bombs. It's no longer to do with the weather. It has to do with weather weapons, right? We basically have a sky arsenal. So you see how it works. It says, well, asteroids are a threat. We need to detect them. We need to see what's going on. Well, how do we see? What's the best way to see what's going on? We need to have eyes up in space. We need satellites. all right, we're going to give you $700 trillion to build satellites. And the cabal says, aha, well, for every 10, we're going to send a climate weapon. We're going to send a space weapon. We're going to send a device that's equipped with, nuclear weapons. Just in case. We have them up there. Right? Launched during this asteroid threat. Now the asteroid, so we are seeing the increase in the asteroid threat. I am seeing the increase in the asteroid threat. So if we go back to 1974 and what Dr. von Braun said to Carol Rosin, who went public, and she said the 5 cards.
And we have to prevent the weaponization of space because there is a lie being told to everyone that the weaponization of space is now first being based upon the evil empire, the Russians. There are many enemies, he said, against whom we're going to build this space-based weapon system, the first of whom was the Russians, which was existing at that time. Then there would be terrorists. Then there would be third world countries. Now we call them rogue nations or nations of concern. Then there would be asteroids. And then he would repeat to me over and over, and the last card, the last card, the last card would be the extraterrestrial threat.
These are the 5 cards that they're going to play. Well, asteroid is playing out. So the issue people will have is that most of the young people, high school students, weren't around in 1974. They have no idea what was going on in 74. They're born in 2000, right? High school, born 2000, 2001, 2002. So this is 25, 30 years before they were born. There's no memory of it. How is it possible? I mean, just ask yourself, how is it possible that a rocket scientist working for NASA can tell somebody that they're going to play 5 of these cards, 5 threats, global threats, and each of these threats will necessitate a military reaction, will necessitate funding, political reaction, media attention, a threat to human race? How is it that 25 or 30 years before the high schoolers are born, right? So it's, it's 45, 50 years ago. How is it possible what that person was saying is coming to fruition today? It's manifesting today. Is that an accident? Is it an accident that now we're talking about asteroids? And the asteroids follow the terrorism, and the terrorism follows the rogue states, and the axis of evil, right? Remember the axis of evil? And that followed Russia. Because you always need a global threat. You always need a global threat. When you say Paris, well, if there were 5 cards, why didn't they talk about climate change? Because climate change has nothing to do with anything. Climate change is a cover story to hide the space weapons, which is what von Braun was talking about. They're going to weaponize space, right? It's the weaponization of space. So climate change is covering up the weaponization of space. Because as long as you believe that the weather's gone wild and it's in a bad mood and it wants to destroy us, you're not seeing what's really causing these extreme weather events. So we have the weaponization of space, which leads us to the last card. I hope you're following along. These things are not coincidences. Somebody doesn't say something 50 years ago that comes true today. step by step. That's not a coincidence. That's not an accident. That's not synchronicity. That's called a plan, a long-term plan. They think on a very long-term scale. So you have the asteroid threat, and in recent years and even recent weeks, there is an increase in discussion of declassified UFO files.
The U.S. Navy has finally acknowledged that videos appearing to show UFOs flying through the air are real. They don't call them UFOs, they call them unidentified aerial phenomena. The several videos they're talking about were recorded years ago by fighter pilots. Then in 2017, they were made public by the New York Times.
In fact, last week, the military declassified a bunch of UFO, the Navy, the U.S. Navy, declassified UFO files. And they've been doing it periodically. But put it in perspective, because you have the asteroid card is being played. Now you have UFOs. So the military is validating UFOs. Military personnel have validated UFOs. UFO believers have validated UFOs. But they haven't gone mainstream yet. That's leading us to the last card. So what is the last card? This is coming from Werner von Braun, a German rocket scientist in 1974. And you can bet that he was told before 1974. A guy who's dying of cancer spills the beans of this plan. The last card is the alien threat. That's the last card. The fake alien invasion. It's taken a little time, right? 50 years. So you have to think on a long-term scale with this stuff. The last threat is an alien threat. That a rogue group of aliens have decided to attack us.
To disguise their anti-grav crafts to look like a UFO. They can do this using holographic technology, or they can just build ships that look similar, or they can keep it at a distance. They're going to launch human anti-grav fighters to attack the fake UFOs. So they got the fake UFOs, and then they launch their jets and their advanced ships to attack their own UFOs. So they are fighting themselves, but on the ground it will look like an evil alien group and a human group. And of course the humans are going to win after the aliens do some destruction.
So how are they going to lead us into this thing? Just like the climate change, it took a bunch of years. They started out with global cooling in the 70s. Climate change was originally global cooling, that the earth would freeze. The earth would freeze and we would be sent back into an ice age. This is not fiction. This is what scientists, climatologists believe. This is what conspiracy theorists believe. There would be the end of the world due to global cooling. People would say not by fire, but by ice. So in conspiracy theory, in climatology, global cooling. That didn't work. So somewhere along the way, someone said, wait, all the minuses we were seeing were actually pluses. So we're going to see a global warming. Yeah, the numbers we didn't get right. We're going to see a global warming. The seas will rise, the ice caps will melt, and we're all going to drown, right? Giant floods. It's going to be the biblical flood. We're going to roast. The sun will roast us because the sun's getting hotter and we got holes in our atmosphere. So global warming. That really launched off in 2006, the paranoia of global warming. But global warming didn't work because people are not all gullible. And then the winters were cold and the summers were warm, and in some places the temperature was great, and sometimes the ice, the Arctic ice, was increasing, and sometimes the Arctic ice was decreasing. So they couldn't sell global warming because it didn't cover all of the data. And then they switched to climate. Well, the climate's changing. We could change this way, it could change that way. It's changing, climate change, and it's caused by carbon, and shut up, you better believe it. Okay? So, we're talking in the 70s, up until the 2006 is when it really took off, and global warming became climate change. So, you see the progress here, the digression. Global cooling, global warming, climate change, doesn't matter what happens, we are doomed. But meanwhile, they're launching all these satellites, all these climate weapons to create this, to create the extreme weather, to weaponize the weather, to weaponize a hurricane, right? To create earthquakes. You can create earthquakes with a weather weapon, with a kinetic weapon. You heat up the crust and you cause an earthquake. You can create volcanoes to erupt, right? You can do, with weather weapons, you can do all this stuff, right? You just have to work with the weather pattern. With the weather pattern, you just use the weapon on it. So now we have the alien threat. The alien threat requires UFOs, because UFOs will appear and something will be attacked, right? Giant laser beams, a flash of light will attack a village, will attack a beach of innocent people, or a metropolitan area, and people will die, buildings will be destroyed. Investigators will come in there and they'll say, well, we've never seen a weapon like this before. See the scorching on the concrete? You see how the people were disintegrated, and the wood didn't even burn. So they'll have investigators, they'll have professionals, undercover CIA, NSA, NSC, you name it. They come in now to validate. Well, whatever hit us was use an advanced weapon. So then they got to bring the other experts in. Well, do you know what nation has those advanced weapons? Well, we're familiar with Iran, North Korea, Russia, and they don't have those kind of weapons. And the leaders come on and says, we didn't do it. And then there's a bit of a political debate, and we have more experts come on. Well, eventually people say, well, who did it? Who? Who? Did the UFOs do it? Well, ma'am, we didn't do it. We don't have that technology. We don't have these giant lasers and this flash of light. And those UFOs, we tried to identify them, and they're not ours. They weren't drones. So now we're talking months. We're talking about months now. Maybe there's another attack. Right? And if the people aren't convinced that there are evil aliens, and they're all looking up going, oh my God, are they going to hit us next? What do they want? What do they want? Then you bring on the UFO experts who are also undercover. You say, what kind of alien races are we dealing with, right? Well, we know of the Anunnaki, and we know of the Pleiadians, and the Arcturians have been around for a while, and all of these fake aliens, because the expert is a fake. And they come up, and they start adding more garbage. So now people are like, oh my God, is it the Anunnaki? Who are the Anunnaki? And then you got like CNN researching who are the Anunnaki. We got nothing. nothing in the conventional, our conventional experts. So they got to go court some conspiracy nut, Dr. So-and-so. You've been studying UFOs for 30 years. What do you know about the Anunnaki and the Pleiadians? Well, funny you should ask. I've been afraid of this kind of moments, something that would happen. It was inevitable. It was inevitable. You see, the Pleiadians are a quite peaceful race, but there are a handful of them are really nuts. And I think they did it. Now, we're talking about months now, weeks and months of stirring up fear and paranoia. Now, that's not enough. So what they do is there's a UFO sighting. The U.S. military comes in with their advanced ship and they shoot down the spaceship. Spaceship crashes. They video this stuff. Or they release it, they declassify it, they go through whistleblower. And it's a real ship, it looks like a real ship, and on the ship are these aliens, creatures. Oh my, they are aliens, we are under it. So lo and behold, we have captured an alien being. Maybe dead, maybe injured, maybe we interrogate them, maybe there's a video of that gets released to the public after enough people say, we want more information. And then the intelligence, they'll have a whistleblower release that information of the alien that was captured or the dead body pictures. We want to see pictures. They won't release it right away. That'll take months and months. So now we have attacks, we have alien beings. What people don't know is those were engineered. They have been engineering hybrid alien races. They have created alien beings, engineered, bioengineered in underground facilities for years and decades. This is not new. We have a space fleet. They have back-engineered ships. They have captured flying saucers and spaceships. They have back-engineered these things. They have copied them. They have been in cooperation with other off-planet races who could lend them a ship, who could manufacture a kind of a ship that could get shot down, right? And it's loaded with weapons and it's loaded with dead aliens. And that would solidify the last card, the alien card. We are under attack from evil aliens. They'll need a name. They'll need a race. They'll have to make up a race or take something that they've already programmed. The Arcturian, the Orion, the Pleiadian, the Lyrian, or some derivation of that, or one of their competitors. And those are all fake. Those are all, the ones I mentioned are all fake anyway. Because remember, star beings have been visiting this planet, the solar system, for millions of years. In the modern era, for thousands of years, even the most modern is centuries. And they haven't invaded. It's just not the way they work. It's just not their interest to invade. In fact, they've been protecting our planet because we are still a developing civilization. But in order to solidify these goals of keeping the world under threat, of solidifying power and centralizing power, and to enable the deployment of more advanced weapons, to showcase the space fleet we already have. That the space fleet, well, by the way, guys, we got a space fleet, and we're going to attack these alien beings, and big choo, 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 pew, 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 pew. And then we defeat the aliens, and then we worship the cabal. Right? We worship the people who saved our planet by creating a false flag operation. Right? It's a very advanced operation. People will die. Advanced technologies will be displayed. Fake aliens will be shown, will be discussed. Actual alien creatures will be shown that were engineered. They may even mix this with some other ones that they've been capturing. They've captured a lot of star beings and experimented on them, tortured them. Show some of that. Bring out some DNA. Well, this DNA, we'll get a biologist to say, this DNA that I got from the whistleblower, from the military intelligence, from the NSA, well, this DNA is not human. Oh my God, oh my God. So this is the way it works. It's not an instant threat. It's a very well laid out plan through the media, through social media. They got people planted in social media. They got people in the UFO community. They got lots of plants. The military they're compartmentalized. So one guy believes in aliens and he'll talk about that angle. Another guy doesn't believe in aliens, but says, I'll believe it if I see the evidence, and they get the evidence as well. I believe it. It's a very powerful psychological game. It's a very dangerous game. And it's been planned since before 1974. So if those of you who are young, think about 1974 and 1960s, and that these powerful people, right, the people who control this planet, they want to make sure that you are always afraid. You're always, whether you're scared of we're scared of the weather. The weather is going to kill us. It's crazy. It's absurd. It's the most absurd thing. Well, you've never been in a flood. Yeah, but it's a weather weapon. It's a weapon. It's an attack. It's not normal, right? Earthquake, they can create them. It's not normal. Yeah, it's terrible. But if they drop a nuclear weapon on you, it's terrible. But it's not natural. It's a military attack. People are afraid of the weather. People are afraid of carbon. I got to lower my carbon footprint. People are going to be afraid of asteroids. People are going to be afraid of an alien invasion. These people, do not underestimate these people, the cabal, these master manipulators. Do not underestimate. Do not believe everything you see on television and read in the newspapers. Be very discerning. Don't say I'm going to wait to make up. Don't make up your mind. Listen to the truth. The truth is, again, star beings have been around for millions of years, in recent times, thousands of years, in more recent hundreds of years. There's a lot of star children here who have been engineered for even the last 100 years. So if the evil aliens really wanted to wipe people out, they would have just wiped them out genetically. You wouldn't need to invade. You wouldn't need to blow things up. But blowing things up looks good. It scares people. There was a big laser beam over Detroit City. No one knows what it is. Oh, it's the aliens. They're coming. We need help. Now, as soon as the people say that, we need answers. We need help. Who's going to help us? The guy comes on television. Well, ma'am, you got nothing to worry about. I can assure you that the U.S. Navy is fully equipped to handle this problem. Yeah. What problem? You create the problem, and you create the solution. That is the problem. That is the threat. See the lies, we know the plan. We're not going to sit or stand. Alien.